when I think about like looking at somebody, if I have zero context of who they are and I don't see them interact with anybody at all, I don't know if I could say that's a charismatic person. I could say they have swagger, which is slightly different to me, or they have confidence in body language. Mm. But to say that they're charismatic without ever seeing them talk to anybody or ever talking to them, I don't know if I could judge that. Mm. Yeah, I'd have to get an example of how.
See, the only challenge I have in your definition is intention. Mm-hmm. I don't think you have to have pure intentions to be charismatic. By all accounts, Hitler was charismatic.
You mean pure intention?
How did you describe it?
Said the intent to make them feel good.
Yeah, you have an intent to make somebody feel good.
Yeah.
I don't know that intention matters for charisma.
What's a counterexample of somebody being charismatic?
I'm trying to think of somebody.
That is.
I said Hitler, but Hitler had intention to make his followers feel good. Just not anybody else.
But that's an example. You're trying to do something and sort of joke. What I was saying, that was an example just now, right? You were thinking about Hitler. You were kind of beeline or
right, and I said something funny,
and then you went back. But that could have went completely the other way, where you're like, "No, Hitler is the right," or it could be you're just completely goofy with no base, right? And so that would be an example just now. But I am curious because I'm like, the reason I said it like that is because I don't see the only way you're moving people without force is if they like you, or unless you have a very common goal that they really want. Obviously, if you have both, but it's very hard to move a person that doesn't like you. And so,
is that charisma or is that communication?
Well, charisma is communication. It's communicating in a particular way. Remember, it's merging.
See, being a good communicator does not necessarily mean you have charisma. It means you're a good communicator.
It's a certain type. If you're educating somebody, you're communicating. Like
no. I understand, but being a good, entertaining communicator, and the way you described it, being that kind of a communicator, because to me that's a good communicator. When you can educate somebody with a story. Comedians are great communicators. Right. They fit into that paradigm where I'm giving you information and I'm entertaining you.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily lend itself to charisma, because I can be on stage and be a great communicator and have zero charisma because I walk off the stage and it does not exist. I don't have it like charisma comes and goes. Once you have it, you have it.
So if, let's say, somebody communicates charismatically on stage, and in their general life,
see, I would even clarify that they communicate well on stage.
Is that for you to decide or for the audience to decide? So if
the audience, absolutely the audience.
So if we survey them, and they're like, it was a very charismatic, because he's doing the charismatic things. Let's say he's doing the formula, and they're both laughing and at the same time. Their experience of the information, because it's not just the info, it's also your experience of the info.
Right.
Because if I give you words and I'm boring as fuck, because I can communicate it through story, I can communicate through straight raw like words, and I can do both, and then throwing a self-deprecating joke midway, not necessarily because it even adds to anything, but it just adds to the vibe versus just raw data.
Right.
And so that ups engagement because I laughed. But this is not a conscious, inserted a joke in 12 minutes into the speech. It's like when the speech is done, you're like, how did I feel about that? Oh, okay. Like that's how most people are thinking about, what did I learn and how did I feel? They could have learned stuff, but it was like,
it was boring. I fell asleep. Blah blah blah. Otherwise, that was wonderful. That was entertaining. I got something out of it. Made me laugh. Da 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 da. they would evaluate the communication. I don't know that people would say he's charismatic on stage.
Well, we'd have to. I can't think of it. I do think you can be like I do think people have sectional. You can be more charismatic in more contexts than other people, but you do have people that, particularly if they're like liquored up or just in particular contexts,
right, agree.
Are very.
There are
different.
people who are liquored up or drugged up and their energy shifts.
Well, I'm not even going to use the escape, the caveat of the liquor, but like, this is what's called, you mentioned the PUA days, but they used to have something called situational confidence, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're in a position where you're around your buddies, because you have dudes who are just around their friends, they'd say, oh, that's the man, he's charismatic, put him in front of a girl. Right. And so there was another piece to the definition. I think it had to do with unapologetically being yourself. I just don't remember doing all of the stuff we discussed without an attachment to the reaction.